Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Today, I want to share a story that's really personal to me. It's about a moment that could have broken me, but instead, it lit a fire inside me that I didn't even know I had. This is the story of how my ex-teacher told me I'd never succeed, and how I ended up graduating as valedictorian. It all started back in my sophomore year of high school. I wasn't a bad student, but I wasn't exactly a strata student either. I was more of a solid B average kind of kid, trying to figure out what I was passionate about. I liked my classes, but I hadn't found that one subject that truly clicked. Like a lot of teenagers, I was a bit lost, a bit shy, and definitely still finding my voice. I was trying to balance school, a part-time job, and the social pressures that come with being 16. It was a lot. There was this one teacher, let's call him Mr. Harrison. He taught a subject that was notoriously difficult, and he had a reputation for being tough. Not tough in a pushes you to be your best kind of way, but tough in a way that often felt discouraging. He had his favorites, the naturally gifted students who seemed to grasp every concept effortlessly. And then there was the rest of us, who had to work a bit harder. I fell squarely into that second group. I spent hours on his homework, went to extra help sessions, and really tried my best, but my grades were just okay. The moment that changed everything happened during a parent-teacher conference. I was there with my mom, sitting nervously across the desk from Mr. Harrison. He went through my grades, pointing out my struggles. My mom, ever the supportive parent, asked him what I could do to improve, what potential he saw in me. I'll never forget the look on his face. He leaned back in his chair, sighed, and said something that felt like a punch to the gut. He looked right at my mom, almost as if I wasn't even in the room, and said, "Honestly, some students just have a ceiling. She's a nice kid, but she's probably reached her academic potential. I wouldn't expect her to go much further than this." Silence. The air in the room got so thick I could barely breathe. He basically said I'd peaked, that this was as good as it was going to get. In that moment, I felt a wave of emotions, embarrassment, shame, and a deep stinging hurt. I saw the disappointment flicker in my mom's eyes before she replaced it with a determined look. On the car ride home, she told me not to listen to him, that one person's opinion didn't define me, but his words were stuck in my head, replaying on a loop. "You've reached your ceiling. You'll never succeed." That night, I cried. I felt like a failure. It felt like all my hard work meant nothing. I seriously considered just giving up, just accepting that maybe he was right, maybe I was just average, and that was that. But then, as the tears started to dry, something else started to bubble up inside me. It was a tiny spark of defiance. Who was he to tell me what my potential was? Who was he to put a limit on my future? That spark turned into a flame. I decided right then and there that I wouldn't let his words define me. Instead, I would use them as fuel. I was going to prove him wrong. Not for him, not even for my mom, but for me. I needed to know for myself that he was wrong. From that day forward, something shifted in my approach to school. I stopped just trying to get by. I started trying to excel. It wasn't easy. It meant making some serious sacrifices. I cut back on hanging out with friends on weeknights. I spent my lunch breaks in the library. I started asking questions in class, even when I was terrified of sounding stupid. I became obsessed with understanding, not just memorizing. I would rewrite my notes, watch educational videos online, and form study groups with classmates. My grades started to climb, slowly at first, and then steadily. I went from B's to B pluses, then to Eminesses, and finally, 2 straight A's. It wasn't just in Mr. Harrison's class either. My newfound discipline and focus spilled over into all my subjects. I discovered a love for learning that I never knew I had. I found that I was actually good at this, that my ceiling was much higher than anyone had ever thought. The next 2 years of high school were a complete blur of hard work and dedication. I took on more challenging AP classes, joined the debate team to build my confidence, and even started tutoring other students. The shy, insecure kid who sat in that parent-teacher conference was slowly being replaced by a confident, capable young woman who knew her own worth. I wasn't just studying to prove someone wrong anymore. I was studying because I loved the feeling of mastering a new concept and pushing my own boundaries. I barely interacted with Mr. Harrison after that year. I'd see him in the hallways, and we'd give each other a polite but distant nod. I often wondered if he noticed my name on the honor roll lists that were posted every semester. I wondered if he ever thought back to that conference and questioned his own judgment. But honestly, as time went on, what he thought mattered less and less to me. His comment was the catalyst, but my journey had become entirely my own. Fast forward to the end of my senior year. The final grades were posted, and the class rankings were calculated. My guidance counselor called me into her office. I walked in, my heart pounding. She smiled and handed me a letter. I opened it, and my eyes scanned the words until I saw it. "We are pleased to inform you that you have been named valedictorian of your graduating class." I just stood there, speechless. All the late nights, all the missed parties, all the moments of self-doubt, it all led to this. I thought back to that sophomore year parent-teacher conference, to Mr. Harrison's dismissive words, and I didn't feel anger or bitterness. I just felt a profound sense of gratitude. In a strange way, his negativity had given me the greatest gift, the motivation to discover my own strength. On graduation day, as I stood on that stage, looking out at all the faces of my classmates, my teachers, and my family, I felt an incredible sense of accomplishment. My mom was in the front row, tears streaming down her face, but this time they were tears of pure pride. As I delivered my valedictory speech, I spoke about perseverance, about not letting others define your limits, and about the power of believing in yourself, especially when others don't. I didn't mention Mr. Harrison by name, but I shared the essence of the story. I talked about how negative words can either be a barrier or a stepping stone, and how we always have the choice. After the ceremony, Mr. Harrison actually came up to me. He looked a bit awkward. He said, "Congratulations, I was wrong about you." It was a simple, quiet admission, but it felt like the perfect end to this chapter of my life. I just smiled and said, "Thank you." And in that moment, I knew I had truly won. Not because I proved him wrong, but because I proved myself right. So, if there's anyone out there who has ever been told they're not good enough, not smart enough, or that they'll never succeed, please, don't listen. Don't let someone else's limited perspective become your reality. People can't see the fire inside you. Only you can feel it. Use their doubt as your fuel. Let it drive you. Your potential is not a fixed point. It's an ever-expanding horizon that you get to define. You are the author of your own story, so make it a great one. Thank you so much for listening to my story. It means a lot to be able to share it with you all. If this resonated with you, please hit that like button and consider subscribing for more videos. I'd love to hear in the comments if you've ever had a similar experience. Until next time, keep believing in yourselves. Bye.